Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. Got one of our sponsors on today in Dryden Gold. They've got a very exciting project about, I think it's 100 kilometers or something like that from Red Lake. And it's in the same kind of a rock packages. They're looking for an orogenic gold system like at Red Lake, and they just started trading in January of this year. So it's sort of a brand new company, but they hit the ground running because they were raised a good amount of money even before they went public and did a bunch of drilling. And now we're starting to see the results of all that work. So I've got Trey Wasser and Maura Kolbun to talk about the recent results and where that's taking them. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Alan.
having us, Allan.
So the news release that you put out after the PDAC just last week, Dryden Gold intersects 14 grams of gold over 7.54 meters at El Oro in the Gold Rock Dryden camp. Um, Really good looking stuff there, Maura.
Yeah, we're really happy with that. And the Allura drilling that we did, all of the mineralization really looked great. It's a little bit different than what we intersected in the first program. It's a parallel zone to what we drilled in phase 1 and 2. So we're starting to really get to know this deposit and what's here. And what's here looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I like to see that half an ounce over meters and looking really good. And so, just for people to get an idea, historically, before you guys got in there was some drilling that hit spectacular high grade, 53,000 grams kind of numbers. And you've got two zones, Big Master 1 and 2, and then just to the west a bit is another parallel El Oro vein or
Yeah.
zone. And something I've noticed out of the results that you had on the Big Master drilling was that you're starting to define some nice looking shoots there that seem to be running parallel to each other. So why don't we talk about that a bit more?
I think that's a great place to start, Allan. So you mentioned the 53,000 gram per ton hit. And so the previous operators really focused on that hit. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's great. And thought they defined like one high grade shoot there. So when we started off our drill campaign, we wanted to test our theories of what was controlling that high grade shoot. And so Anna, as our VP of Accident, and myself, we looked at all of the possible data and we thought that intersection lineation, so how things intersect and that like the way they pierce, that can be your kind of pipe like orientation. So we thought that might be the control and the fold orientation might be the control. And that's what creates those kind of like shoots. So we had our hypothesis. We drilled a few holes right on that historic high grade and confirmed our theories and said, okay, yeah, these are the controls. This looks to be this almost nearly vertical high grade shoot orientation. Then we wanted to test a couple other places where we thought and suspected there could be high grade shoots. So in the Big Master system, we have two essentially parallel zones, Big Master 1 and 2. So we stepped behind the high grade shoot that was known where we thought
Okay,
the
so
cross
the
fault
the
would
50,
intersect it.
53,000 is on Big Master 1,
It's on Big Master 2.
2. Okay, good. All
Yeah.
right.
So we stepped behind that where we thought the same structure might intersect Big Master 1. And then we drilled a hole there where we had enough data to say that there was something sneaking suspicion of high grade, but we targeted where we thought that shoot orientation would occur. And that's where we hit that 26 grams per ton over 3 meters. So success, that's working out. The targeting is working. And then we stepped 400, I believe it was 400, 450-ish meters to the south along Big Master 2, where the high grade shoot that, had been drilled in the past and had that 53,000 was on, where we thought there was another potential intersection and a potential for high grade. Now, that one was successful as well. And we've followed that up in phase 4, the results that are still pending. We did a few other holes on that. So we're starting to see these high grade shoots. And through our interpretation, we did a contoured long section, you've probably seen on our slides, or if you haven't, take a peek at it. And through the interpretation, we actually found another high grade shoot that has 3 drill holes historically in it. So we're starting to see how often these high grade shoots are occurring. And the idea is we'll be able to start to predict how often they occur, kind of based on the pattern of the faults that are coming in and the overall folds. So there is some science to this madness. It's not just getting lucky. We're testing these theories and kind of doing their detective work to figure out why they're where they are, and then where we can find more. Because we have a few goals in this program. One is to increase the footprint to show that we could have something significant here, like a real significant deposit and a future mine. And then second, we need to have enough of these high grade shoots. I mean, 153,000 gram per ton hit's great. One shoot is exciting, but more of these, many more of these, really, then you have something that you can mine, something that you can build, a resource and a deposit around. So that is our strategy. And then on this Allura stuff that we just put out, it's a perpendicular system. It hadn't seen drilling since the 90s and 80s, and that was drilled by Teck and St. Joe. So we hadn't seen the core from that. We don't have that historic core. The logs, we're kind of focused on different things at that point. So we wanted to drill some holes in that ourselves. We did a couple holes kind of in the heart of it. We did some expansion holes, and then we did a bigger step out about almost 300 meters, and we keep seeing the system. So we had that fantastic 14 grams over 7 meters, and then we were able to step down from there, step out about 200 meters from that, and we hit 53. I just want to read it, 53 over a meter. So that's pretty exciting too, because we're seeing the high grade continue to expand outside the kind of known high grade pod. So we'll start to get that geometry at Allura too. We're looking at a contoured long section there, and where else we need pierce points to better understand what that's doing and how big that system could be. So it's exciting times. A lot of nerdy scientist stuff going on here, but I can't say I'm not having a good time.
Well, it's very exciting, and I really like the way that you guys are approaching this. Sometimes explorers can do what we call promoter holes, and they'll very tightly try to drill right beside each other to keep the story going. What is striking about the way you guys are doing it is that you're taking big step outs, and you're finding that your predictions of the model are hanging together. And that is no small feat when you're looking at an orogenic gold system. These things are found in vertical lenses that are not, the fact that you're finding them and they're predictable is quite impressive to me.
Well, Alan, let me comment, because I think Maura sometimes doesn't give herself enough credit, or Anna or brag enough about their history. I mean, they spent quite a bit of time at Red Lake, obviously in the later years at Goldcorp. So they really have been able to study, what went on there from the struggling days in the 90s, when it was several different operators, and then after Rob did the Goldcorp challenge, that grew from, I think, 96 it was doing 50,000 ounces, and once they discovered that system at depth, that it was producing over 500,000. So the girls, they know, they have a lot of history, and they know both what to look for and what not to do, things that maybe were done wrong at Red Lake. And these systems are very hard. They're predictable. The orogenic system generally, all of them in Ontario, they get go on very deep and have very high grade roots generally. I mean, we're lucky that some of our roots, a very high grade one, is is pretty close. That was only at 75 meters depth, that 53,000 gram intercept. But so drilling these at depth is very difficult because, if not impossible, to do it from surface. And obviously, everything we're doing is at surface. So our plan is to just continue to expand the footprint. So, even on that Elora, we stepped out on phase 4, 1.5 kilometers to the south. We haven't seen the assays yet, but certainly hit the system. To the north on Elora, we know that there were 2 producing mines, including the Laurentian mine, which was the highest producing mine and produced about 20,000 tons at 0.41 ounces per ton. So we know that system extends to the north, although it steps off our patents. We own the ground, but we'll have to get permits up there. But we have, just in the Gold Rock camp, we've consolidated this property for the very first time. And again, one of the early problems at Goldcorp or at Red Lake was that it was in so many different hands. The historic mining here in Dryden, in this area, on the patented claims and in the Gold Rock camp, probably 10 or 12 different miners, all separate companies, all built their own mills, all went bankrupt, trying to chase these orogenic systems from the surface. And so our goal is to really increase that footprint and show that, because we've consolidated, some 60,000 hectares now, all along this major Manitou to Norwich deformation zone, with multiple cross-cutting structures and with a folding in it that, again, is very similar to Red Lake for creating these chutes through the fold hinges. So we've got tremendous opportunity, and the advantage that we know we have high grade starting at surface. So we can really put something together, first in numbers and in the footprint, if you will, and then, hopefully be able to attract the kind of dollars it's going to take to, explore this more at depth. We did do one hole on that new chute that was the step out on Big Master. We're very excited to see that, because that'll be our deepest hole to date. And down there at depth, about 350 meters depth, we drilled both the Big Master through Big Master 2 and into Big Master 1. So we hit both vein systems there. They're coming together. So up near the high grade zone, they're about 150 meters apart, those two things, with mineralization and veinlets and shearing, whatever it is, in between. But now when we get down to this area to the south, this 450 meter hole 10 step out, we call it, is those two systems are about 70 meters apart. So what's in between there? And again, I don't think we did a good enough job in the first press release of really saying, how much science that Maura and Anna put into that step out onto Big Master 1, that they interpreted where that cross structure would be hitting, and that's where they hit the, almost an ounce, 26 grams over 3 meters. So, I think a lot of people thought, just because if you looked at it on the map, that it was just a hole that we drilled trying to twin the high grade chute on Big Master 2, and that's just not the case.
It's I'm glad you brought that up about the experience of Maura and Anna, and I really enjoyed the chat we had at the PDAC. I got to sit down with Trey and Maura and Anna, and it really struck me, Maura, a lot of times in mining, a lot of people take credit for various different discoveries. And I've always been able to tell the difference between who actually did the work and who's trying to take credit for the work. And because I have 30 years of experience in exploration, and it all comes down to explanation of what happened. And when I sat down with you and Anna and Trey at the PDAC, I really got a sense that you guys know the ins and outs, and that tells me who probably did the work and deserves the credit. And I was quite impressed with you telling me about how you had to change the direction of drilling slightly from what was being done, and came across a lot of ounces that extended the mine life quite dramatically.
Yeah, I was telling you the story about finding one of the zones that we found. Anna and I were working together at that point in mine exploration, and my daughter was born around the same time, and we had this amazing hole where he had 20 feet at an ounce, and that's a pretty sweet discovery hole. So quite a fun story, and then that turned into one of our big reserve replacement targets for the next few years, and certainly was being mined when Goldcorp sold to Newmont. So I think it's still being mined today. I don't think they've quite finished it up, but it's cool to see those things from an idea to a discovery hole to actually being mined. And you learn an awful lot. Like in that one, we're following the control of the mineralization was an ultramafic body. And so something we're trying to do here with Dryden is understand some of we call them stratigraphic units, but there are these higher titanium basalts that are really important in Red Lake. In hindsight, you would want to do geochemistry to be able to correlate them and make a stratigraphic unit, because it's really just green on green, very hard to tell the rocks apart except for their chemistry. So we're trying to look at that now to be able to trace those kind of units that are great traps that really don't visually look different, so that we can find those traps and trace them along the property and see how they're folding, so we can find the best places for that. Because this particular discovery Allan was talking about was where the fold actually changed the plunge direction. So our typical plunge direction at Red Lake, it follows that high grade zone, and it's almost, you can see it, that pattern. And then in some places where you have a change due to the fold orientation, it actually switched orientations. And that's how we found it, was thinking, okay, let's follow the fold, the control. So it's fun to do the science and actually have it work out is fantastic. And so that's some of the things we are looking at in hindsight. What would have really helped make discoveries faster in the Red Lake camp? Can we do that here? So we're coupling geophysics, geochemistry, structural interpretation, all of that together as much as possible, so that we can, drill less holes, but hit the same amount of gold and make the same discoveries. So try to make the most value for our shareholders, really.
And what you're describing there, the horizons, the stratigraphic horizons of the rock, how they fold, and the faulting, and the chemistry really helps you to be able to pinpoint. I know it doesn't get the average investor too excited, but I had a lot of experience in exploration of diamonds, and you're looking for such tiny little things, and oftentimes those pipes will have multiple different zones inside of them with different grades. And so you really have to rely on your chemistry and your diamond distribution and your different phases of the system. And so what you're describing there, to me, it's like you're getting the DNA of
Exactly.
the system.
Mm-hmm. That point out too that but Anna was more as number two there on the exploration team at Goldcorp, and reason for that and why they make such a great team is Maura's background is in the structural geology and understanding these folds and controls, where Anna's background is the geochemistry. So there's some arm wrestling that goes on between them, but we have an excellent combination in the two into very smart geologists.
Well, I'm sure it's not too much arm waving, because a lot of times the evidence keeps on pointing you in the same directions, right? If the mineral chemistry isn't telling you to go this way, and the folding and the faulting and the stratigraphic horizons aren't telling, they come from the same place. So you should
Exactly.
be, of a like mind at some point. And it seems like that's what's happening.
Mhm.
Yeah, trying to use all those tools is really important. And we were partnered with Mira Geoscience, and their geologist that does the 3D modeling there. He worked with us in Red Lake as well, so he has a real good understanding of these systems and this area. So it's kind of in some ways we were putting the band back together and using people we know have that bench strength. And so far, it's certainly working. I'm pretty excited to see what comes out of the next program. As Trey mentioned, we stepped another 1.5 kilometers down now to the southwest, where there was a historic mine, if you can call it that. It was one of those ones where they built the mill first, and then they started their shaft, but ran out of money. And it's really interesting. I think I told you last time, but on this property, there are so many remnants of old stone buildings, and it's not like, going around just the patents itself is it's not a huge footprint, and there's so many old buildings. So you can really see that piecemealing the property really hurt them. There's a lot of opportunity. This gold outcrops on surface, these veins. So I think using all the tools we have with the combined land package, it's just so important to have that whole footprint to be able to look at it from the big scale. That will help us to get more targets. And that's something that we're doing, I think, is a little bit different than most juniors, is we're looking at a pipeline. Everything we are learning here at Gold Rock, we can apply to the whole camp and start to look for other areas that might have similar signatures, either geochemistry wise or by the faulting and folding, to find more targets so that we can say, hey, we've got Gold Rock and it's pretty exciting. But, we had those surface samples at Hinman, 13 grams per ton on surface. That's nothing to scoff at. But now we're applying what we've learned there, and we're going to go and do some field work this summer there, map that even better, really peel back the moss, so to speak, and get more idea of the outcrop there and the potential. So everything we're doing, we're learning more, and we're showing an entire pipeline. And that's the kind of thing that, a Barrick size company, that's the way they systematically explore. But we have the more agility being small. We can do a lot quickly. So it's a very exciting place to be.
Well,
And I will comment too, Allan. Small is right. I mean, our geological team really is Maura and Anna. This isn't a lifestyle kind of company. We're keeping our overhead and our burn rate down very low. We're very fortunate again in this camp. I mean, the infrastructure is fantastic. The Hinman property Maura just mentioned, you can throw stones onto the Trans-Canada Highway there. We also picked up this Cross River ground to the south, which would be the southernmost part of the Gold Rock camp. That came with a mining permit and had a mine on it historically that was just mined at just under an ounce. So we're very excited to get down there and do some field work this summer. But, on top of that, we have an infrastructure there with the highway. More from Dryden can literally be on the property in a half an hour. We were able to drive a pickup truck to every one of the drill sites here. And we drilled, by the way, November through the end of January, 1st of February. So, and another thing that's happened in this camp, people ask, again, when I can't help but keep drawing back to the advantages we have over what they went through at Red Lake in the early days, is most of our exciting part of our ground is high ground. So we are not dealing with canoes and ice overs for drilling and stuff. A lot of what they did go through at Red Lake and made it difficult. But also the forestry that has gone on in this district over the last 50 years, if not more, has just opened up so much, both with roads being pushed in, areas being stripped off. This was heavily forested ground. So historically, it was only places they could get to that where they actually mined. And, certainly there's when you look at the shape of the patented claims, 7 kilometers all along that Manitou to Norwich, the Cross River ground to the south, and even to the north, it's very, very straightforward where the trend is of the mineralization here. In fact, Maura mentioned Hinman, that 13 gram sample at surface came from a place where the forestry had punched a road in, and they opened it up and they saw, it was some distance away from the known occurrence, which wasn't as high a grade, but it was the forestry that opened this up and basically pointed it out to us.
Look over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I in these orogenic gold systems, you guys have a huge advantage, Maura, for a couple of reasons. Well, more than a couple of reasons, but the key ones that stand out to me is the experience that you and Anna had finding high-grade ounces at the Red Lake mine. And that was after, a lot of the discoveries were made. And so you got to see what things look like in drill core and in underground. And that gives you a huge advantage. But in these orogenic gold systems, I'm always trying to determine where you are in relation to the heat engine. And the fact that there was such extreme high grade, so close to surface, suggests to me that you might not have to reproduce what Red Lake or Goldcorp did, in that they had to get down about 1,000 meters before they got into the bonanza stuff. You've seen that in this system, that bonanza stuff virtually right at surface. And so, you might not have to go down to that. There could be enough erosion that the top of the system is already gone, and you're now very close to the bonanza and the heat engine.
That's certainly something we're looking for evidence for, like what part of the system we're in. And it was interesting, some of the holes that we did, the deeper ones on the historically defined high grade chute, we started to see a difference in the way the vein looked. It no longer looked like where you have a crack in a nice vein. It started to be more shear hosted, where the vein was very sheared up. So that is starting to tell you you're in a transition zone in terms of how deep you are. I don't know what to make of it yet, but it's certainly something, Allan, we're paying attention to, and we'll be watching for. I think, we're looking for all of the different clues, and as this comes together, it's not something you figure out overnight, but I'm quite proud and pleased with what we've been able to do so far, using what we know from past life. And applying all of those different tools to be able to do this faster and better, because that's what we need. We need to be able to do this quickly and as efficiently as possible, especially in this not the best market. So, we have to make every single dollar count.
Well, the market's getting a little better these days.
It
We
is.
almost got gold up to $2,300 an ounce, and it's looking very strong in the trend. And, finding good exploration projects is not easy. Finding good orogenic gold systems is not that easy. I'm looking all the time. And another interesting thing happened at the PDAC. And again, this gets down to this geeky science stuff that people don't really pay a lot of attention to, but I do. And that was the news that Newfound Gold put out on their seismic work. And it looks to me like that system they've got to keep going deeper into that system to really get into the bonanza stuff. And what I noticed in the seismic is that they're getting this complex. You've got the main deep crustal cracks in the earth, and then you've got all these secondary cracks, and this is what you need for an orogenic gold system. But as you're describing what's happening here at Dryden, it keeps coming to my mind that maybe you don't have to go super deep. Maybe there was enough erosion that you're getting down to where you could have exciting things in the first 300 to 400 meters.
It's interesting that you bring up sorry, Trey. It's interesting that you bring up the seismic survey, because there is one on Dryden. It's something that we have looked at with Mira Geoscience. And we do really feel that the Manitouwadge-Norwick deformation zone is that key driver. Like you see it at the Red Lake mine, they did seismic there, and that's what they felt that the South Crosscut Fault represented. And so, yeah, it's an interesting correlation that you keep seeing, and you need that deep structure, you need that breaking cross-cutting fault architecture. All those pieces are here. So the pieces of the puzzle are here, and I'm glad you brought up a different example too. It's very exciting, and it's good to see these correlations. Sorry, go ahead, Trey. I cut you off.
Yeah, that's fine. I just said that was a great lead in too, but from both of you into, again, me harping on infrastructure here. So we talk about one other thing that's going on at the camp at the very north of us is the Treasury Metals project. And that is more, of course, more work there for a couple of years. And then she was, she was tempted by the high grade in our project, but that's a low grade 1 gram per ounce open pit project, maybe 2 to 3 million ounces, probably will grow from there. Maura could talk a little bit more about that. But very interesting in that, here we have high grade gold near surface. And, of course, we could, again, go back and talk about the history at Red Lake and how all these different mines struggled at near surface. But yet we have the advantage here of having a very advanced open pit low grade project in the camp, and in a camp where we have highway connecting us, so that if we are able to put together a footprint down here and even start to show a couple million ounces of near surface high grade, say 4 to 5 grams, 5 grams, I mean, depending on how close to surface it is, that could be combined with that 1 gram stuff at Treasury, I think that you're going to see a mid-tier or maybe not major, but certainly a mid-tier company and maybe major, given the depth potential on our ground, start to look at putting these two projects together.
Well, I'll take one step at a time, and the first one is that stepping out along strike on the known veins. Oh, and you brought up something earlier that really intrigues me, is that the two Big Master 1 and 2 seem to be coming closer together, and this could be where you're getting closer to that heat engine and where the rocks are really well prepared for the gold mineralization. I like to keep track of where things come together, the cross cutting, even bends in the zones that create these well prepared rocks for that gold mineralization.
Well, that's really key, Allan. It's one of the reasons why Anna and I are calling it the Big Master system in the Elora, because we can see that it's kind of like a braided river, where it's coming apart like that. Sorry, dog got his toy. Where it's kind of coming and going. That geometry is really important, but it does create even more great traps for high grade, and those little nuances and folds are fantastic for creating pooling of high grade. So we're really keen about that, and I don't want to describe it as specific zones because right now we only have a little piece of the infrastructure that we know, and this pipe system is going to be more complex, more like a braided stream. And so, that actually gives us a lot more opportunity. So I'm pretty keen about what we've seen there, and then additional splays. Like, we do know that there's something in between Big Master 1 and 2, and it's just starting to piece that geometry together. The model will get much more complex as we learn more, and that's exactly what you expect in these systems, but we've got a pretty good handle on the envelope, and that is what we're trying to prove right now. How big is this envelope? How the periodicity, Anna's big word that I practice saying, how often do these shoots occur?
Yeah,
I know, I'm getting better at it. How often do these shoots occur? And as we can predict that, then we're really off to the races. So it's a good start.
Yeah, and even Allan, even up at the known high grade shoot, and where we stepped across onto Big Master 1 and had that almost ounce intercept, up there where those two pieces of the system, the main portion there, main pieces are Big Master 1 and Big Master 2 are about 150 meters apart. There's a lot going on in between those. There's some other veinlets, some shearing. We don't know, could this thing connect up there? And another thing that I don't think we pointed out in that first phase of drilling that's very important is we did a 400-meter step out to the north and hit the Big Master system up there. We're not sure if I think it's Big Master 1 that we actually drilled up there, but intercepted that. So getting this bigger footprint, and as long as not every hole is going to be super high grade, but if we can show that the system is continuing, then they can vector in on those spots. I mean, that gives us another 400 meters to the north where we know the mineralization extends. What's going on in between there and the known high grade?
And when you're and Amora, I get the sense that you are quite over the moon about what you've done so far. And for you to be that excited this early is quite impressive to me based on your history at Red Lake. But what certainly is not lost on me is that you're not taking 10-meter step outs. You're predicting something 400 meters away, 1,000 meters away, and you're hitting it. That doesn't happen by accident. And based on what you're seeing in your early drilling, I think is hitting that kind of predictability. How important that is, Maura.
It's really key. So, I mean, I'm very, very pleased with what we've done so far and excited to see, in the next phase that we have drilled, that we are waiting for results back, how those have come out. It's a little bit more testing of that 400-meter step out to the southwest where we believe there's a high grade shoot. And, something that I haven't really talked about much with you is just we're dealing with a system, with old drilling where they selectively sampled. And I think in these systems, that's really dangerous because things don't always look like they'll run because the high grade's nuggety. So you might not see the nugget of gold, but it could be there and still it could be in a sheared basalt. We know that lots of different things will run. So it's really getting your eye to that. You don't want to miss anything. So we have quite an opportunity because we have most of the core that was drilled by Manitou Gold. It's all stored out there. So we have the opportunity to go back and do some relogging. And that's something we're planning into the summer program is to do that and test some of these in-between areas to get a better sense of what could have been missed. Because what we've logged so far, we've seen mineralization happening between 2 and 10 grams in stuff that doesn't look like it would really even run. So pretty exciting opportunity, I feel.
So why don't we wrap it up with a little bit of what you have pending and what's next?
Well, pending is about 1,300 meters of drilling. I've said that another big step out, 1.5 kilometers to the south on Elora, and this deepest drilling to date underneath that new high-grade shoot that came out of phase 1 and 2, which is piercing and going to give us an idea of exactly what's going on as these two systems, Big Master 1 and Big Master 2, are getting closer together, vectoring in. Then we're going to take a bit of a break. The girls are going to do some arm wrestling and maybe do some of the relogging on the Elora core and looking at things and deciding where to put maybe another 1,500 meters of drilling that we have budgeted into a phase 5. And we'd like to get that completed before late this spring because we are a little nervous about the fire season up there. At least, of course, Maura lives right there in Dryden, so she knows. So that'll allow us to spend the summer, especially if we're restricted on machinery up there, doing more field work and like I said, maybe getting that core pulled out of Manitous and so I think that's those are some of the catalysts coming up here as we move forward. And if the market is cooperates, we'd look at raising some more money to start a program in the fall. Again, having the distinct advantage here of that, this is year-round exploration, no helicopter support. Unless it's a heavy snow, we're on high ground. We're not, using canoes.
Sorry, got a phone call coming in there. I'll have to hang up on that one. Sorry.
But look, I mean, I think the opportunity here for your listeners and is we're trading, bouncing around here, but trading at about a $15 million market cap.
Oh my God, everybody's
With the potential to have something, I mean, we could sit here all day drawing parallels, and I'll probably do more research and come up with more stats. But more is that really the key, and Anna are the key here. I mean, they have that experience from Red Lake to know that this is something that's very similar. And of course, we have to get lucky, but it's just never been explored before. The 30,000 meters of drilling has been done on our 50,000. It's not throughout the whole camp, but just on our claim package, it's only had 30,000 meters of drilling historically. And 20,000 of that approximately was centered around that super high grade hit by Manitou over about a 200-meter strike length. A bit over on the Elora was done in the 80s and 90s by Teck and St. Joe. But just to show how underexplored this district is, despite the fact that there's just so much to offer here. There's so much potential that we don't think it's going to take but a few exciting holes for this thing to really, a few more exciting holes, I should say, for us to really start getting the attention of the market, and the market to be listening to this Red Lake 2.0 story.
Well, I'm certainly listening very closely because I've sort of seen this happen before, Trey. And I'll tell you what impresses me is that you guys are finding gold, you're understanding the system, you're, some would say, making brave step outs, but I get the sense that you're doing that with a lot of confidence, which goes back to the interpretation of all the work. And so I find it very impressive that you guys are finding gold in this orogenic gold system, and you're making these brave, confident step outs. Says a lot to me about what you're seeing in the core and all the other data. And I think it's leading you to some great stuff, Maura. I can get the sense of your enthusiasm is quite evident, Maura.
Well, she just had 4 days off too, so be part of it.
I don't know. It's the 4 days or that gold in the core that. And I get it, Maura. You guys are interpreting and making predictions, and then going out and seeing it in the truth machine, and that's tremendously exciting.
That's why to do this job, right? It's so fun to be an explorer. I mean, I have the best job on the planet, really. So at least I think so.
Well, I'm envious and I'm watching from afar, but I'm watching closely from afar more. And you guys have done a fantastic job, and I get a strong feeling that that's leading you in a very good direction to grow what you have there. So
Thanks so much, Allan.
Keep up the good work, you guys.
Thanks, Allan.
And our next
Thanks for having us.
We have to get Anna, because I was really impressed sitting down with you and Anna, one coming at it from a structural side of the story, one coming at it from the geochemistry, and together the work that you guys are doing. So we got to get Anna on one in the not too distant future, Maura.
Absolutely, absolutely. She's taking a nice break. I work her pretty hard. She joined our team in the fall, and we think we've been running light speed since. So it'll be good to get us all together and nerd it up.
Good on you both. You guys are doing a fantastic job on the project, and I'm looking forward to more data and more interviews.
Sounds good, Allan.
Have,
Thank you very much.
yeah.
I'm going to wrap
Thank
it
you very
up.
much.
I'm going to wrap it up, and I'll talk to you guys at the other end. So there you go, folks. Dryden, Ontario is very exciting to me because it's so close to Red Lake, Ontario. And you've got the old rocks that you need, and you've got the cracks in the earth that you need to make these orogenic gold discoveries. And there's lots of gold. When you have those old timers digging into the ground, that's hard work. And they weren't doing that for the fun of it. And now, years later, Dryden Gold comes along and consolidates this big package of land. And then you've got Maura and Anna, who had great experiences at the Red Lake mine, are able to take all that information and compile all the information on their property. And then again, I go back to, they're making aggressive, well, some would say hopeful, aggressive, but confident step outs. And you know, usually in these narrow, steeply dipping veins, companies are explorers are afraid to do that kind of stuff. But these guys are doing it confidently, and they're seeing really good stuff in the drill core. And this has me very excited about the future, to find ounces along strike, and then how to find the various different zones inside that, and put something together, and how to follow it deeper. And again, I don't know if they'll have to go as deep as they did in the Red Lake mine or even in Fosterville, because there might be enough erosion that it gets you closer to that bonanza zone, because you already have evidence that the bonanza grades have been seen very close to surface. These are all the reasons, or some of the reasons, why I think this is such an exciting project. And we'll be following it closely. And on that note, do your homework, speak with your financial advisors. Dryden Gold is a sponsor, but I use my 30 years of experience to talk about what impresses me about the exploration work that they're doing. But it is important for you to do your homework, speak with your financial advisor. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.